Good morning, everyone. October 10, round two. I was just I was checking our recording on the feed, and it was you have to be kind of sideways to be able to see us. So round two. So I'm sure Fee will be on. I'll be on in a moment. So what I was just sharing with the around what's been going on since we've talked with you last. We've been out doing lots of sort of lunch and learns, keynotes, women in engineering. We did a webinar yesterday, which was loads of fun. And every time we're out in the rooms talking around the core confidence message, sharing the 10 building blocks, the conversation goes deeper. So it's really lovely to be able to share, I guess, a lot of our journey post kind of publishing the book. So one of the things I was just saying to Fiona was, read. There was lots of stuff we could include in this book, and we had to kind of really look at. You'll need to turn your screen. Yeah, that's her. There was lots we could include, and so at a certain point, you kind of need to stop. Less is more, and what we've got now is the opportunity not only to get out and do the speaking circuit and share the core confidence message, but also share with you some of the conversations we've been either having between ourselves, and one of the ones last week, Fee, was around fear, and this one has come up. We've been sitting in this a lot around being okay with not being liked.
Yeah,
because it's such the need to belong, and I know it has sat for years, in my story when I share in the book from when I was a teenager, the whole wanting to fit in and be part of that crowd, the in crowd was so strong. And so, we see this constantly play out with people in terms of needing permission to do things, but also, not assuming, so this piece around assumption, assuming that I couldn't, I'll get a no, or I'll get, I won't be liked, they'll be disappointed in me, or there'll be some sort of negative view of me because I have asked for workplace flexibility, or in one that we saw recently, negotiated a salary increase, and really kind of, I guess, stood firm on it in the end, excuse me, guys, and gotten what she wanted in the end, but it wasn't with a smile, which was hard to wear.
Yeah, it's such a deep-seated human conditioning, and particularly from an early age. How do we fit in? How do we be acceptable? How do we be liked? How do we belong in any group? And when we come to the workplace, I think sometimes we overlay expectations that are beyond what the workplace can provide. And that's maybe a distinction for people to get clear about, that, while it's exciting on one level to have great rapport and great camaraderie and collaboration with your peers and workmates, you're not always going to be in a situation that you are possibly with family or friends where you're going to be liked in the same way. And it's actually not about that. In some ways, when you are firm and clear about what it is that you want and you stand for that, it actually shows and demonstrates who you are, which then in turn allows you to do that on behalf of your company. So if you're someone who's always people pleasing, and you're always saying yes, and you're always backing down from things you ask for because you don't want to be not liked, then you're actually showing really someone who's not strong enough to carry the best intentions for the organization into the world. So it's really important that you start to think about what your role at work is and what you're there to do. And you are part of a collective and you are part of something, but sometimes that will mean being standing for something that's important to you and holding that even when you don't get lots of accolades and smiles and approval for what you've stood for.
Yeah, recognised for backing yourself. And what's interesting, even as we're talking about this, I often see that, particularly when it comes to REM reviews, it's the concept of fairness that is often the highest positioned. And it's when the need to be liked is not as important as the need to be treated fairly. And so it's in that, if I'm thinking about a number of times when I've worked with clients to negotiate pay rises that have been really, difficult, emotional, not being met with the best response by their leaders. The view that this is fair and I cannot not have this conversation has been more important than the need to be accepted and liked. And I think, I was doing a power coaching session yesterday afternoon, and this is where we come back to, which is what we're going to focus on today, clarity, is how important clarity is in terms of being able to make confident decisions and being able to step into action. So I've been reflecting a lot around, number one, the piece around decision making, but this piece around confident action taking. And what, I was working with a client yesterday, and she's in an interesting space in her world. She's here in Australia, but looking at heading English, so heading back. Tough decision, visas and all of those sorts of things can make it really tricky for, when you're on the ground, and what it means for your career, what it means for your desire to travel, what it means for your, what desire to be back and near your family. And so, the process in the book is the values process. It's orientated around your careers. But what I actually did with her is just kind of say, in this moment, if we sit here for the next 3 months, if we contain the time frame to just the next 3 months, which is quite beautiful, because most of our decision making and our thinking is always really long term. And with her, I'm constantly bringing her back from the 3 and 5 year plan to, let's just think about the next 3, 6, 12 months, because that's kind of the time frame we're in. But really to say, because she was literally very, very torn in terms of, have you made a decision? Are you staying? Are you going? Yes, I've made a decision. But I could hear that she hadn't made the decision. And so that makes it really challenging, because what happens is you make the decision and then you spend the next 24 hours thinking about that decision, questioning the decision. So you really haven't made the decision. And you end up spending 4 weeks straight making the same decision, either the same way or different, every day. And that is torturous emotionally, apart from just being kind of not a really great use of emotional energy. And so it was really about going, in this moment, what's most important. And one of the things we've been talking about a lot lately, and that means you're going to have to say something's not important.
Yeah.
And in the saying of that, it means I'm actually going to have to take action. That means I don't focus on that. I don't move towards that value or that part of my world. And this isn't about never doing that. It's about actually in the moment, if we think about that particular client, for the next 3 months, what's most important? Is it your career? Is it having fun here in Australia? Because, you might not be back for a couple of years. Is it getting back to family? Like, what is most important if we think about life, and what for now is most important? And therefore, what choice do you make as a function of that? And for her, it really, I guess, took away a lot of the confusion that was going around in her head, and allowed her to kind of go, oh, okay, and took the pressure off making decisions, for the next sort of 10, 20 years of your life.
Yeah, I think we can so easily get caught in a whole lot of what ifing, long-term thinking, thinking that, if I say no now, that it's no forever. That's not true. No for now is just now, and we get a chance to choose again. So it is really helpful to be able to prioritize and go, you know what, in this moment, as you're saying, or for this, encapsulated time frame, I am going to focus on X. That does mean I'm going to have less time for Y and Z. And I'm not saying no for that forever. I'm just saying for this particular time of my life, this is what's going to be most important. And I mean, we all have to do this every day. There is simply far too much we could be doing. And, you and I have been through this with all our book launch plans and that sort of thing. It's not possible to do everything. And so we have to recalibrate all the time and go, okay, we can't do that this side of Christmas. That's going to be a 2019 piece now. And it does, as you say, it relieves pressure to go, yep, we're doing as much as we can and we're getting this done and we're ticking these boxes, and we're not going to try and do that right now. It's just there's not enough bandwidth to do it all.
Yeah, and the more I'm out there talking, the more I just see this is the crucial piece, because in the absence of doing that, that's where this frenetic pressure is. That's where I'm going here, I'm doing this, I'm meeting this, I'm pleasing that person, I'm meeting that expectation. And for years, you and I have really focused around, what are the 3 things that are most important, either for the year, or if we bring it down to the month, or what is it that if we sit back and go, okay, cool, at the end of the year, where do we want to have made progress? Or what do we want to have to achieve. I think the beautiful piece, and a good mentor and coach of mine gave me this feedback, particularly if we think about it in context of career, is this is your life's work. You know, you're here for, you know, many, many, many years, we hope, and this is your life's work. So it doesn't all need to be done in 12 months. And so that was one of the biggest gifts I ever got, because it allowed me to, it helped me just slow down a little bit and enjoy the ride a little bit. And sometimes, you know, there's always things in life that force us to do that. You know, if a loved one passes, or, you know, if health kind of slows us down, and, you know, ideally we actually have the ability to be able to, and this is where we hook into the maintain resilience piece, we're able to know ourselves well enough so that we can go, okay, cool. So I need to slow down a little bit. Maybe I need to sit back and make some decisions around, and, you know, I did this for the long weekend, like 2 weekends ago. It was a busy weekend, and I knew it was going to be a busy week on the other side of it with travel. And we had, you know, one particular social engagement that was going to be an all-day thing with friends in Sydney. And as much as I wanted to go, I knew that what was most important for me was just time out at home, kind of hanging in the garden with nothing to do almost, but just sit and rejuvenate, and just focus on getting lots of sleep, and lots of just downtime. And so it's making those choices. It says, okay, and sometimes, here's the kicker, sometimes we're going to disappoint people.
Yep. It is inevitable in life, and how we are okay with that. That this is an inevitable piece, that when we get clear and we know what our priorities are, we know what we need to do, as you were saying, even if it's just for the weekend, we will sometimes have to disappoint people, and know that that's okay. And again, it won't be forever. There will be more chances and more times that we will get to engage and do exactly what it is that we feel as though we might be missing out on, or that someone is disappointed with us. And, you know, obviously there is a way that we communicate and we can share that to the best of our ability, but we can't be responsible for other people's feelings, whether it's, you know, your friends were disappointed you couldn't make it, or you know, a work colleague or a work boss who's given you a pay rise and they haven't quite yet reoriented to that. You know, it's felt like a bit of a tussle. It's felt like, you know, something's happened that was that they had to give in almost. And, you know, you've got something that they were trying to hold on to. I don't know what's going on in their head. You can't really manage that. You can only do your bit, which is be okay with it and kind of know that they'll get over it. They'll, you know, it'll settle down in a little while. It'll be fine.
And I think the other piece is, you know, if I then dig a little bit lower, be honest. So I was completely honest, you know, with these friends, said, look, this is where I'm at. I just need to stay home. I need some time out. And, you know, I think people get that, right? Everyone gets the busyness. And then I think the other piece is, you know, that's in the moment. But then when you fast forward and you're making decisions, which is difficult when you're making decisions 6 weeks out, but, you know, hold a level of consciousness with when you're saying yes, and, you know, have a conscious yes, or you know, a tentative, if you kind of go, you know what, actually, like for me, I know October is a really busy month for me, so I'm more likely to say to people, look, you know, particularly if I'm thinking social stuff, it's not a great month, could we push it to mid-November, so that I take as much friction, as much tension points out of the month of October, or whatever it is, so that I'm not feeling that level of, you know, that level of tension, or not in the situation where maybe I have to say no when I really wanted to say yes, or, you know, say yes, but really suffer the consequences in terms of physical time, whatever it's going to be, because I want to honour my commitments. And there's certainly a piece there around, you know, honouring our commitments, which, you know, we certainly stand behind as well. But I do think people are reasonably, I think people understand these days. And the opportunities to get really clear. If you're constantly coming back, a good friend of mine is brilliant at this. She's really clear at the beginning of the year. She's a single mum, runs her own business, and, you know, is in the health space. So she's really clear that her daughter, her business, and her health are the three most important things. And that is the arc with which she's making decisions all the time. And she's okay if she has to say no to stuff, if it doesn't support the goals that she has around those three areas. And I think there's something, I mean, that's confidence, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a really interesting thing, because very little is forever. So even as I'm hearing you say that, I'm conscious that, you know, I'm in a different phase with my kids, for instance, and we're just, you know, finishing up school. And so, you know, there's a freedom that comes with that. And so even though, you know, for the last X number of years, you've made a lot of choices around prioritizing kids, there comes a time when that's not the priority anymore. And so it's, you know, it's honoring what is true now, as you said, getting really honest about, you know, what is it. And I think sometimes those big time frames really feel very heavy, whereas if I can just go for this 6 months or this 12 months, you know, as your colleague does, you know, this is the three things that I'm really going to focus on. And when I have to make a decision, come back to how is this supporting one of my three things that I'm prioritizing, it just clears the clutter and lets us go, yes, I'm saying yes to this for these good reasons. And I'm, you know, there's good, I guess I'd like to do that. And it's a no for now.
Yeah, not yet, which I love.
Yeah.
Well, the values process and clarity, like the most powerful, I think. Personally, I love doing the career values process with clients in organizations. I think it is the most powerful thing in terms of helping you understand your career experience. It helps you make career decisions, but also the process, what we've been talking about today, you can take the process and put it around other aspects. So you can talk about, you know, what's important to you in context of life. So you can be quite broad around it, or what's important to you in context of health, or you can use it, what's important to you in context of relationships. And so do it with your partner and sort of getting really clear about, you know, what's most important to you in terms of navigating your relationship. So it's a brilliant framework for so many reasons. We'd absolutely highly recommend you jumping in, grab the book. If you haven't got it already, you can jump over and get it on the website. As I said, the values process for me is life-changing. And if I think about how often I'm using the process and the conversation to help people kind of declutter what's going on in their head, and how free they feel on the other end of that 20-minute conversation, it's so worth the investment.
Definitely. Yeah, but we see it time and time again. Just having a conversation with someone yesterday, had been, you know, going out with a great guy, really lovely on lots of levels, but it wasn't meeting what she'd said was really important to her in relationship. So, you know, 2 weeks ago, I had that difficult conversation and was prepared to walk away because it wasn't going to be what she'd hoped, even though there were some nice parts to it. But, you know, she was making a really clear choice because she knew what was important to her.
Nice one. All right, we'll leave it there, guys. Look forward to seeing you next week. And I think we're going to dig into set goals and take action. And the clarity piece absolutely precedes the take action. So if you get a chance and you've got the book, make sure you jump into chapter 1, take a look, understand your career values, and I look forward to seeing you, hearing you, and answering your questions next week. See you guys.
See you.